On a chilly November evening in 2017, 22-year-old Lila Thompson stepped out of her apartment in Chicago, heading to a friend's birthday party just a few blocks away. She never arrived. Days later, her phone was found ringing beneath a bridge miles away from her last known location. What happened to Lila Thompson? And why does this case still haunt investigators to this day? The last confirmed sighting of Lila was caught on a security camera at 9:46 p.m. She was wearing a red jacket, her long brown hair cascading over her shoulders. She appeared to be in a hurry. 3 days later, a jogger found a purse near the abandoned train yard on the city's south side. Inside was Lila's ID, credit cards, and lipstick, everything but her phone and keys. Police were called, and when they searched the area, they found no trace of her. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. But something about the scene didn't add up. Why was there no sign of a struggle? And how did her phone end up in an entirely different part of the city? The abandoned train yard itself was unsettling, an expanse of rusted tracks, shattered windows, and graffiti-covered walls that stretched for blocks. Officers combed through the area, their flashlights slicing through the darkness, but they found no footprints, no signs of a scuffle. The only clue? A single set of tire tracks in the dirt, leading away from the site. Who had left them, and were they connected to Lila's disappearance? The eerie silence of the scene raised an even more chilling question. Had this been where she was taken, or was it merely a diversion? Then came the strangest discovery yet. Less than a mile from the train yard, wedged between the grates of a storm drain, police found a red thread, fibers consistent with Lila's jacket. The location made no sense. How had her jacket been torn if there was no sign of a struggle? It was as if she had been carried, her jacket snagging on something in the process. But by whom? And why had her belongings been left so deliberately in plain sight? As detectives processed the scene, the case grew even more puzzling. The purse was placed too neatly, the contents arranged as if someone wanted them to be found. It didn't look like an accident. It looked like a message. But from who? And what were they trying to say? Just when investigators thought they had hit a dead end, a witness came forward with a chilling claim, one that changed everything. Detectives pored over surveillance footage, tracking Lila's last known movements. They found a clue. At 9:51 p.m., a dark sedan was seen slowing down near the intersection where Lila was last seen. The driver, a shadowy figure, appeared to be watching her. Police traced the vehicle to a rental company, but the name on the records led to a fake ID. The case took an eerie turn when Lila's best friend, Emily, reported receiving a text from Lila at 10:12 p.m., saying, "Almost there, tell everyone I said hi." But phone records placed her phone miles away from that location by then. Was the message even sent by Lila? Further analysis of cell tower data revealed something even more unsettling. Lila's phone had pinged in two completely different locations within minutes, a distance too far for her to have traveled on foot. This suggested one of two things: either her phone had been taken by someone else, or a second device was being used to send misleading signals. Investigators considered the possibility that her abductor was deliberately trying to confuse law enforcement, leading them in the wrong direction. But why? Was this a crime of opportunity, or had someone planned it in advance? Then came another clue. Witnesses at a nearby convenience store reported seeing a woman who resembled Lila just after 10 p.m. She seemed agitated, pacing near the entrance before getting into a dark-colored vehicle. The grainy surveillance footage captured a fleeting image of the car's rear bumper, just enough to show part of a license plate. Investigators ran the partial plate through their database, narrowing it down to 3 possible vehicles. One of them was registered to someone with a disturbing past. As detectives closed in, they received an anonymous tip. A caller, whose voice was distorted, claimed they had seen Lila that night, but the details they provided weren't public knowledge. Whoever they were, they knew something crucial. And then, Just when the case seemed to be gaining momentum, the gas station footage surfaced. What it showed sent chills down the investigators' spines. Then, a break. A piece of security footage from a gas station revealed something shocking. Police identified 3 main suspects. The first was her ex-boyfriend, Derek, who had a history of controlling behavior. He claimed he was home all night, but neighbors reported hearing a car pull into his driveway around the time Lila disappeared. When questioned, Derek became defensive, insisting he had no reason to harm Lila. But investigators uncovered troubling details. Derek had sent Lila a series of angry text messages the week before she vanished, accusing her of leading him on. One message, sent the morning of her disappearance, simply read, "You'll regret this." The second suspect was her co-worker, Ben, who had been obsessed with Lila for months. He denied seeing her that night, but surveillance footage from the gas station near the train yard captured a man resembling Ben buying gloves and bleach. When police confronted him, Ben claimed he was buying supplies for a home project, but detectives weren't convinced. A search of his apartment revealed dozens of photos of Lila, some taken without her knowledge. His internet history was even more disturbing. Searches about tracking devices, kidnapping techniques, and how to wipe digital footprints. Had Ben escalated from obsession to something far worse? The third suspect? An unknown figure seen driving the dark sedan, whose identity remained a mystery. The car had been rented under a fake ID, making it nearly impossible to trace. But forensic experts managed to lift a partial fingerprint from the vehicle's interior. When they ran it through the database, it matched someone with a violent past, someone who had slipped through the cracks before. The discovery sent a wave of urgency through the investigation. Then, an anonymous tipster called the police, claiming they knew exactly what happened to Lila. The caller, whose voice was distorted, led detectives to an abandoned storage unit on the outskirts of town. Inside, they found something horrifying: strands of Lila's hair, a blood-stained scarf, and a single Polaroid. The photo showed Lila, alive but terrified, tied to a chair. The timestamp? 24 hours after she had gone missing. This revelation confirmed their worst fear: Lila had been held captive. But by who? DNA analysis on the scarf came back with a hit. The results pointed to someone unexpected, a name that had never been on the suspect list before. Forensic experts worked tirelessly to extract more evidence from the scene. Beneath a pile of discarded tarps, they discovered a rusted metal chair with frayed ropes still tied to its arms and legs. Blood spatter analysis suggested a struggle had taken place. Even more chilling, investigators uncovered a second Polaroid tucked inside an old toolbox. This one showed Lila in the same chair, but with a different outfit. It was clear that she had been alive for more than a day after her disappearance. The photos weren't just evidence, they were a taunt, a deliberate message left behind. But from who? The biggest shock came when the DNA results were processed. The sample belonged to Charles Montgomery, a convicted murderer who had supposedly died in a car crash 5 years earlier. At first, police believed it was a mistake. But when they re-examined his case file, inconsistencies surfaced. Had Montgomery faked his death? If so, where had he been hiding all these years? And, more importantly, was he still out there hunting for his next victim? The DNA belonged to a man who had been dead for years. The DNA was linked to a man named Charles Montgomery, a convicted murderer who had supposedly died in a car crash 5 years earlier. This raised even more questions. Was someone planting evidence? Or was Montgomery somehow still alive? Then, in a dramatic twist, the prosecution presented a stunning new theory. Montgomery had faked his death and had been living under a new identity. The defense countered, claiming the evidence was circumstantial. As the trial unfolded, another shocking revelation emerged. One of the original suspects had lied about their whereabouts that night. Prosecutors introduced a key witness, an ex-convict who claimed to have met Montgomery in an underground network of criminals. He testified that Montgomery had paid for a new identity and had been moving between cities, avoiding detection. The witness recalled a chilling conversation in which Montgomery allegedly boasted about his perfect crime, describing in disturbing detail how he could make someone disappear without a trace. The defense dismissed the witness as unreliable, but the prosecution had more evidence up its sleeve. A forensic expert revealed that a fingerprint lifted from the Polaroid found in the storage unit was a match for Montgomery. This was the smoking gun. If he had truly died years ago, how did his fingerprint end up at a crime scene in 2017? Under pressure, the defense shifted its argument, suggesting that Montgomery had an accomplice, someone who had continued his work even after his supposed death. The theory sent a wave of unease through the courtroom. If Montgomery wasn't acting alone, who else was responsible? Then, in a final bombshell, a security video was uncovered from a truck stop just weeks before Lila's disappearance. The footage showed a man resembling Montgomery getting into a black sedan, the same model seen in surveillance footage on the night Lila vanished. This was the moment that changed everything. When the truth finally surfaced, it was more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. In a final twist, it was revealed that Derek, the ex-boyfriend, had been secretly meeting with Montgomery for months. The two had formed a twisted partnership, luring women into a deadly trap. Lila had been their latest victim, but her fate remained unknown. With Derek behind bars, investigators pushed him for answers. Under immense pressure, he finally confessed. Lila had tried to escape, and in a panic, Montgomery had strangled her. They had disposed of her body in the river. Despite exhaustive searches, Lila's body was never recovered, leaving her family with no closure. The confession brought some relief to Lila's family, but it wasn't enough. Her mother, Lila Thompson, refused to believe the official story. She insisted that Derek had lied to protect someone else, and that Lila was still alive somewhere. Desperate for answers, Julia hired private investigators, who uncovered a chilling detail. A woman resembling Lila had been spotted at a rest stop in Ohio weeks after her disappearance. Was it possible she had survived? Or was it a cruel case of mistaken identity? Meanwhile, authorities dug deeper into Montgomery's past, uncovering evidence that suggested he and Derek weren't working alone. Police discovered encrypted messages between Montgomery and an unknown third party, someone who had access to rental cars, false IDs, and money transfers. If this shadowy figure was involved, could they still be out there, preying on other victims? Lila's case remains one of the most unsettling in Chicago's history. Though Derek and Montgomery were convicted, the unanswered questions continue to haunt investigators and the public alike. Was Lila's fate truly sealed the night she disappeared, or did she manage to escape, only to be trapped in another nightmare? With new tips and sightings still coming in, some believe her story isn't over. To this day, some believe Lila might still be out there, waiting to be found. The case of Lila Thompson remains one of Chicago's most haunting mysteries. Though Derek and Montgomery were convicted, lingering questions remain. Did Lila truly die that night? Or is there more to the story that has yet to be uncovered? If you have any theories, let us know in the comments. And remember, sometimes the truth is stranger and far more terrifying than fiction. Even years later, eerie developments keep the mystery alive. Some claim to have seen a woman matching Lila's description in different cities, her face pale and fearful, always vanishing before anyone could approach. Online forums dedicated to the case dissect every piece of evidence, debating whether Lila's fate was truly sealed or if she became a pawn in something far bigger. Could she still be out there, held captive or living in the shadows, too afraid to come forward? As time passes, the legend of Lila Thompson grows, turning her disappearance into a cautionary tale whispered among those who dare to dig deeper. With each new lead, hope flickers, only to be extinguished by the cold reality of the unknown. Until definitive proof emerges, one question will always remain: what really happened to Lila Thompson?